Hello my friends, welcome to Anna's Violets. I wanted to make this video for you here outside. It's a Zamioculcas, it's a very wonderful plant. You may know that I have already some videos about these plants, about their planting, propagation, root growth, etc. But I wanted to tell you quickly about the care tips, which is very important for this plant, and in a second I will also show you how it's blooming. So first of all, quickly about the conditions where it grows. And you can see that it's a very healthy plant. Look at the gloss of the leaves, very natural one, and it's very healthy. The plant is growing in this plastic pot, which is still from the nursery, I guess. And the size of the pot compared to the plant is not very big. The pot itself is quite big, but the plant is also big. And this is one of the conditions for this plant to grow it properly or to grow it even better. So these plants don't really need a very big pot. So it should kind of match the size of the roots, and if you would pick a pot that would just hold the roots, that will be already enough. You don't really need to grow these plants in big pots because you know that this plant has roots and tubers, and these tubers contain, of course, quite a lot of water and nutrients. And also the stems and the leaves are so thick, they can contain again lots of water, and that's why you don't really need to water them quite often. But the most important condition for their healthy growth is, of course, a very bright area. Unfortunately, many people say that these plants can grow in darkness or in the shade. And while they can tolerate and grow somehow in the shade, they will not be very healthy and thriving. And no plant can grow in complete darkness. Now, this plant is growing outside in the summer months, and outside it grows in semi-shade. But it's very bright here, and also the temperature doesn't really differ during the day and at night. It's very warm and the air humidity is very high. So if you would kind of be able to give these conditions to your plant, even though these plants are not very fast growers, but they will grow faster and they will look like this, very healthy and green, and they will have this gloss on the leaves, which is amazing, right? As for the watering, just because I've already mentioned that this plant has tubers that collects basically the water and nutrients, and the leaves and the stems are very thick, you don't need to water them very often. So it can be even once a month, depending on the size of the pot, on the root system, also on the size of the plant, of course. But yes, try not to water it very often because then the tubers can get rotten. So now the blooms. So the blooms may be a little bit, I would say, hard to notice because they are green and they are hanging from the edges of the pot. So you will need to kind of notice them. This is a very interesting flower, I would say. And maybe some will think that, okay, nothing special about this flower. It's not really red or yellow or pink. It's very unique still, and I find it very interesting because it's very unique, and these plants, unfortunately, they bloom not so often when we grow them inside in pots. But if you give them these conditions that I've already mentioned, I think this plant is kind of really gorgeous and definitely worth growing just because of the leaves, even if it doesn't bloom. Zamioculcas is a very easy growing and a very beautiful plant with an amazing shape of leaves and darker spots on the stems, and that's why you can see them thriving in so many hotels, restaurants, offices. And do you see these drops of water here and here? This way the plant is basically removing the excess of water through its leaves. So it means that it has lots of water already and you don't need to water it for a while. Otherwise the plant can get rotten. If you see drops of water on the leaves, there's a risk of overwatering, so don't water until the soil gets completely dry and stays dry for a couple of days. But again, if it's very humid, then this plant doesn't even need watering for months. It depends on your climate, of course. So, hopefully this was helpful, hopefully you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe, click on the bell button to be notified of all the videos, and I'll see you next time. Stay patient about plants.